21st, 2014. We are running a little late. It is 6:43. But if you would please, at this point in time, we do have a quorum. Do you need to take roll, ma'am? Well, what we'll do first is we'll take the Pledge of Allegiance. So if we could please stand for the pledge. Jacqueline, if you would lead us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll see if we can get this thing rolling here now. Now we're going to take roll call. One moment, please.
Eva Henry. Here. Bill Holen. Nancy Sharp. Elise Jones. Here. Dennis Harward. Here. Tim Mock. Tom Hayden. Chrissy Fanganello. Chris Nevitt. Here. Jack Hilbert.
Here.
Gail Watson. Connie McLean. Don Rozier. Here. Bob Pfeiffer. John Marriott.
Here.
Bob Roth. Renee Peterson. Sue Horn. Here. David Spellman. Suzanne Jones. Tim Plass.
Here.
Ann Justin. Here. Lynn Baca. Cynthia Martinez. George Teal.
Here.
Kathy Noon. Doris Trular. Here. Ron Engels. Catherine Hyder. Doug Tisdale. Mark Griffin. Gail Christie. Jim Benson.
Here.
Charles Sigmund. Eric Hockmeister. Todd Riddle. Laura Keegan. Mike Speed. Randy Penn.
Here.
Dan Woog.
Here.
Did I say that right? Okay. Joyce Thomas. George Heath. Samantha Meering. Lisa Jones. Bob Easton. Laura Brown. Henry Aragot. Paula Bobo. Saoirse Karras-Graves. Ron Rakowski.
Here.
Brad Weasley. Stacy Luberger. Tom Quinn.
Here.
Phil Cernanek. Jackie Millay. Here. Gabe Santos. Jeff Moore. I'm sorry. Thank you. Hank Dalton. Bob Muckle. John O'Brien. Colleen Whitlow. Deborah Jerome. Sean Foray. Chris Larson. Joyce Downing. John Dyack. Gary Howard. Landau De Laguna. Kurt Osborne. Deborah Williams. Sandy Pennington. Val Vigil. Herb Atchison. Faith Winter. Joyce J. Doug Young. Deborah Perkins Smith. Here. Simon Tafoya. Bill Van Meter. Okay.
Madam, do we have a quorum? Thank you very much. We do have a quorum. We are now official. Before we move to motion to approve the agenda, I'm going to actually ask for a change to the agenda this evening. I will explain what that item is, and I will need a motion to approve the change. At this point in time, item number 12 will be pulled, or requesting that it be pulled from the agenda and moved to the IMVIC meeting, the very next, the IMVIC meeting in July. That particular item, just so you know, the topic is move to establish a Board of Directors working group to consider the findings of the Fair Housing Equity Assessment and MetroVision 2040 Regional Housing Strategy and recommend the Board of Directors goals, objectives, performance measures, and initiatives to inclusion in the MetroVision 2040 and authorize the chair to make appointments to the working group. It was felt by the officers that this item needed sufficient time to be vetted and that we actually needed to take it to a pre-process and move this particular item to IMVIC for them to look at it and make the appropriate recommendations to the board as a whole. This way we think we give it the appropriate time and we take the appropriate strategies and directions. So I would need a motion to approve changing the agenda with that.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Cernanek. We have a second from whom? From all them. And then, so, and if at this point in time, any discussion on that item? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? So So item 12 will be moved, and according to the chair's notes, to July MVIC meeting. Thank you very much. Moving on now to the report of the chair. Looking at the report of the chair, we have 4 items I would like to report out on, and so the first item I want to just take you aware of that the chairs obviously have several things to report on, but one of those, the future agendas, I just want to make you aware that there's a couple items we would like to make sure that we're going to be changing. One is, because of the nature of our meetings have been going on, we've been pushing the information items to the end, and we'll continue to work that. But however, there are strategic informational items that are going to affect how we look at 2040 MetroVision and other items. We've got to start having, and we will restrict how many of those are, but these strategic informational items we've got to hear before our meetings. We've got to give staff an opportunity to let us know what's going on, and we haven't been doing that because we get rushed for time at the end. So in order to do that and appropriate, what we will be doing is adding an agenda item every week from this point on, every month, and that item will begin right before the consent agenda, and it will be called strategic informational items, and that will be a presentation from staff on that item we think is very, very strategical. So that's an item to come in the future. Secondly, would appreciate it also, board members who are doing committee reports. We have several of those at the end. You know, we have like 6 or 7 different committee reports. We would appreciate it for all the interest of those are here for time, and the fact that you're standing between them and the door is that we would really appreciate if you can hold your comments concise and pertinent to any major decisions that may have taken place at those particular meetings and those particular update items, okay? So we're just trying to work on that item right there so we can respect people's time and their information. The next item we're going to move to under the report of the chair is the Regional Transportation Committee report, that being the RTC, which was a very difficult meeting. I was there alone since I didn't get canceled on my calendar. So, so we don't have a meeting of the RTC for this month. But by the way, we did learn something. Those with iPhones, there is a sync problem between iPhones and your Microsoft servers, and I am a victim of that, so that's what happened. So just as an FYI. So the next item, however, is something I think we really need to give it the time it's due, the recognition it's due, and it is absolutely, absolutely deserved award we need to give somebody here, and recognition. So with that, I would ask Sue Horn, would you please step forward?
Scared or Jag?
And I'm going to read this, and it says, presented to Sue Horn in appreciation for distinguished regional leadership, chair for 2013, presented on this day. And Sue, thank you very much. We're going to let her one more time sit in the chair seat.
Okay, this is an overthrow? No. I'm sorry, I'm just really surprised. Thank you very much. I appreciate this.
As many of you know, Sue was the chair last year, and she did an admirable job, and so we really appreciate her and all she does for the board. She still sits as on the officers as our past president member, so it's really great for our past chair. All righty, moving on now, we're going to move to the report of the executive director.
I will be brief. First, I want to thank Mike Torres, our photographer this evening. Today is his birthday, and he's staying late to take pictures.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mike. Happy birthday to you. All right.
The only thing I'm going to bring to your attention is that tomorrow you board members will be receiving an email from DRCOG. It will have information about participating in the annual performance review of the executive director, me. There are a couple of things I want to let you know. Like I said, you'll be getting an email. It will have a link to a very easy to take survey. Your response is due by Friday, June 13th. If you have any technical issues, you can contact Jerry Stiegel. There will be contact information in the email. If you have questions or concerns about performance issues, you can talk with Jackie Millay, the board's vice chair. She is also chair of the administrative committee, and they are responsible for making sure that this review happens on an annual basis, making sure the requisite discussions take place after the survey is completed, etc. What else do I need to tell you about this? The administrative committee will be talking about the review at the July meeting. This is a 360-degree evaluation in which the board members participate. A number of my peers that I work with in the region participate as well, folks like Don Hunt, Phil Washington at RTD, my counterpart at Pikes Peak COG, as well as my direct report. So this is an important thing. The only requisite is that members of the administrative committee participate, and members of the board don't have to participate but are certainly strongly encouraged to. But if you've been on the board for less than 6 months and don't feel like you have a good feel for what my performance is like, then you're excused and Jackie won't be calling you and bugging you. And I understand too that the first 5 people that respond to the survey will receive some sort of prize.
It's going to be an incentive-based participation, but only for the first 5. So seriously, get your surveys in early, because, and it cannot just be a check mark. The check mark surveys only do not qualify. There has to be some substantive comment. But I promise we're going to make this fun, people. Only the first 5, unless you guys are going to give me a budget for this, and then I'm all in. I could really do some things with a budget, but since it's self-funded, it'll still be, the first 5 will be good.
Okay, so I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. I do have 2 other quick announcements I want to make before we get to the public comment. This is out of the normal chair comments here. But first off, we need to just get a consensus opinion here of the board. We looks and appears like we need to move our June meeting. Currently, we had to move it up from June 18th to June 11th because of a conflict with, I think it was CML or something. And now what's happening, we have another conflict, and we need to move it back a week instead of up. So there's actually a request to move it to June 25th. So we just moved back the June meeting to June 25th. I just need to get a consensus of those present here, just with a raising of the hand, that can people live with moving the next board meeting to June 25th? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please leave the room. No, raise your hand. Please raise your hand. Oh, no. Got 2 people that can't make it. I'm sorry. All right, now we're getting a consensus that it looks like June 25th is probably an okay thing. So we'll just keep that in mind, and we'll be getting out a message to everyone to note on your calendars that the next board meeting is pushed back to June 25th. And next thing I would like to do is just introduce, there's some new members in the room. There are new members coming, and we've got some members who are sitting in the audience. So I just want to go through this and make everybody aware of the changes. So I'm going to point out those who we believe are here, and I recognize, and those that I miss on this, please raise your hand quickly. But we have a new council member from Castle Rock, George Till. George, welcome. All right. We also have a new appointment from Commerce City, and that is Councilman Rick Teeter, the alternate. Rick, back there. Thank you very much, Rick, for coming down tonight. We have Trustee Colleen Whitlow from Meade. Fantastic. Colleen, welcome. We have Councilman John Marriott as the alternate from Arvada. John, all right. And we have sitting in there, but soon to be joining us, is be the member from Larkspur, which is Mayor Jerry Bean. Jerry? And now we also have Trustee Dan Woog from Erie. There's Dan up there. Thank you. And at this point in time, are there any names I've missed here that are here? If not, I do want to read off the new members list. And I'm going to do this also with one thing in mind. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had a 30% turnover in this board since November, so it is often that we get to read these. But we have a new trustee, Samantha Mehring, the alternate from Firestone. Mayor Pro Tem Laura Brown will be a member from Frederick. Mayor Pro Tem Connie Sullivan will be the alternate from Lyons. Mayor Pro Tem Richard Kramer will be the alternate from Meade. Trustee Deborah Jerome will be the member from Morrison. Councilman member Chris Larson will be the member from Netherlands. Is Chris here? There, right there. How you doing? And sorry I missed you earlier, sir. You got to bring your daughter. Your former mayor was always bring his daughter, see, so I would have recognized you. Dogs count, yeah. John, he wasn't pointing at you, I assure you. But anyhow, so with that, I want to thank everybody, everybody who came this evening, and welcome all those new members who are here. So thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda will be the public comment section. This item is scheduled for 45 minutes, and that is allocated for that. And each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes, and you will be timed. If there are additional requests from the public to address the board, time will be allocated at the end of this meeting, of which you can come forward and make your public comments. The chair requests that there be no public comment on issues for which there's been a prior public hearing, and that public hearing has been held before this board. Consent and action items will begin immediately after the last speaker. So, do we have any public comments? Please come forward, sir.
I'm Gene Putman, Transportation Manager for the City of Thornton. I have a request to make, and I'll first give you the background for it. After 34 years of being on the DRCOG Transportation Advisory Committee, I'm retiring from the city the 30th of May.
Wow.
And because of that, and because there is a TAC meeting on June 2nd, and we're starting the, all the stuff for the 2040 and the TIP and all that other stuff, I would like to request of the chair his appointment of my alternate, Jean Shreves from Adams County, and the appointment of her alternate, Ken Mormon, who is replacing me at the City of Thornton. And that is my request of the chair, since those appointments need to be by the chair. I think it's too important to wait until the normal selection of people to be on the committee because there's too much going on in the month of June. Thank you.
Jane, before you leave, please, just one thing. I can't make those appointments tonight. We're going to talk about that, and I will definitely take your testimony and your request into consideration. Well, one, because I think you represent your jurisdiction. I want to make sure that your jurisdictions are supportive of that, and that's the first thing I need to find out. The second thing is I need to also would do so in recognition of your time and service. But you know something? Before you step down there, sir, I just want to say one thing. Thank you so very much for your service. You have been a huge contributor to this region. I think you will not be forgotten. I want you to know that. And so with that, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I didn't come down here to do that. I just think it's very important that this transition occur because of what's got to happen in June. Now, if you think this is the last time I'm going to stand up here at this podium, you have another thing coming. Because now, when I go into retirement, I'm going to be pushing for more transportation, and you'll see me up here at many of your meetings speaking on behalf of myself and my wife. Thank you.
Gene, thank you so very much. Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Aaron Maripol. I'm the president of the Urban Land Conservancy. We're a real estate company here in the metro area. We've invested about $40 million around transit corridors for a variety of community benefits, from both workforce housing, libraries, schools, a variety of things. I'm here actually about agenda item 12, which has been pulled, and I just wanted to speak on a couple fronts. One, as a member of Mile High Connects, which I think you'll hear a little bit more from, which is a regional collaborative which has supported the work that you're doing on this $4.5 million grant that you all received for the Sustainable Communities Initiative. Second, I want you all to know that Urban Land Conservancy is one of your largest matches. So we've pledged over $700,000 to that $4.5 million grant. And then thirdly, we're a member of a collaborative of a number of community development folks and public housing players here in the region. And I have some information which I'll pass out just to talk about the economic impacts that we've had in the community, in the metro area. So I'll just, if that's okay. But I want to really reiterate something here, which is there's been obviously a lot of time put to the work that the Sustainable Communities Initiative is doing. This fair housing and affordable housing study is really critical. It's critical for you all to think about how this moves forward in the future for the Metro Vision 2040, and also acknowledge the staff of DRCOG who have really put a lot of time into this work. And what's really come back from a lot of the community folks is there's a real need to address workforce and affordable housing as a region. So want to stress that, how important it is. It's also important from an economic standpoint, and that's what I'm passing out to you. You can see the jobs that come from the work that we do. So, and then finally, I guess I just, as we, I know this agenda item is moved to the MVIC, really stress that time is of the essence. This SCI grant ends at the end of the year, and so there's a lot more work that needs to happen before the end of the year, and just acknowledge how important that is. Thank you very much for your time.
Yes, sir.
Hello, good evening. My name is Brad Weinig. I'm with Enterprise Community Partners. We're a national nonprofit focused on all things affordable housing, and in particular here in Denver, the connection between transportation, mobility, and affordable housing. And much of what I want to say, Aaron already mentioned, but this organization accepted a $4.5 million grant from the Federal Office of Sustainable Communities to take a hard look at its role in housing and community development, economic development, the community health, and like Aaron, our organization is committed a lot of dollars in match, as well as me personally, hundreds of hours literally in this building working with your great staff on the thoughtful outreach and process that they have done along a variety of transit corridors to your members' jurisdictions, and have heard loud and clear that we have a developing housing crisis in this region. There are more and more everyday people that cannot afford to live and be a participating member of our region. They can't afford to live anywhere near where they work. They're being pushed out of their communities that now are transit accessible because of private investment. And I think for this organization, to accept its role in considering its implications as far as distribution of housing, a wide spectrum, a broad spectrum of housing that I believe I saw mentioned in your mission. I'm not sure that the spectrum of housing is all that broad at this point. It's important that this board take this challenge seriously and really talk to your staff in your communities about what they're seeing on the ground in terms of the lack of affordable housing for folks who are working class and want to be contributing members to society and can no longer afford to or can't afford to get there via transit because they've been pushed out. So again, whether it come from MVEC or this board or whatever, I echo Mr. Mirapol's comments that that it's time for this organization to step up and be a leader in this regard, as you are in many other aspects of what you do across the country. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Jim Taylor, former city councilman of Littleton and former chair of this group. I didn't intend to speak about this, but after the agenda item got pulled, I am the chair of SCI. It is critically important that this board move forward with taking the SCI goals and objectives in the future. We have a $4.5 million grant that we certainly don't want to have DRCOG to have to pay it back because we can't meet our goals. So just keep that in mind. We're trying to make presentations every month to keep you informed about where we're going to go with SCI. But SCI has got to live after the grant ends at the end of the year. That's thing one. What I really came to talk about tonight is it was a tremendous honor to receive the John B. Christensen Award. I want to especially thank the Administrative Committee for making that nomination. And I wanted to show the award tonight because probably many of you have never seen this award. And it is by far the most prestigious award that DRCOG can give, and I'm extremely honored to have received it. I was present in 1973 and 1974 when the very first two awards were given. I was a member of the Northglenn City Council at the time and was acquainted with the two gentlemen who received it. And I thought at the time what a great honor it is to receive something like this from the Denver metropolitan region. Never thinking I'd get one of these. So, but thank you again. It's such a prestigious honor, and I'm so honored to get it.
Thank you very much, Jim. Any other comments? Any other public comments? With that, we'll close the public comment section of our meeting this evening, and we're going to move forward. But before someone jump in, do not make a motion to approve that consent agenda. So, so I have to catch that really quickly here. Good thing Doug Tisdale's not here because he'd have already done it. But at this point in time, would like to approach the consent agenda, but the chair asked to respectfully pull the confirmation appointments to the MetroVision Committee's item because we need to amend that to add 2 members to that list. So with that, I would like to go ahead, though, and approve the minutes of April 16, 2014. Can I hear a motion to do so?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of April 16, 2014. Are there any comments or discussion regarding that item? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions. Regarding confirm the appointments of the MetroVision Committee, what I would seek is a motion to approve the list as submitted with the inclusion of 2 other names, one being George Teal from Castle Rock and the other being Rick Teeter from Commerce City. So can I seek such a motion, please? Mr. Rick, we got a motion. We have a second. Any discussion on that item? Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those who do not approve, please say nay. Abstentions? And we move forward. We're now into our action agenda. Item number 9 is the first item up this evening. This is an action item to request a motion to approve a resolution adopting amendments to the urban centers, rural town centers in the MetroVision 2035 plan, including the growth and development supplement. This is attachment C in your agenda item, please. This particular item will be discussed and brought forward to us by Brad Calvert, Senior Planner. We're trying to determine right now if we have enough members to vote and approve this item. It requires 29. One moment, please, as we give a count. Okay, we have a voting, we have to have a supermajority for this particular item, and that's what that was about in order to vote on it. So with that in mind, I would like to bring it forward. Brad, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No presentation this evening. This is actually, we provided a bit of detail on this item at the April board meeting as part of the public hearing associated with these amendments. I will quickly say, since I know we heard the chair mention the turnover that we've had, just to kind of give the new folks a sense as to what this is. Every 4 or 5 years we do major updates to our regional plan called MetroVision, but we do allow for periodic amendments to that plan that are ultimately, those amendments are oftentimes coming from our member governments that look to see amendments. And so the items before you tonight are really a result of that process. The agenda, the memo in the agenda included a link to the summary, but it is largely, as the chair mentioned, related to 2 revisions to existing urban centers, one new urban center in downtown Littleton, as well as a slight adjustment to the way rural town centers are designated in the Growth and Development Supplement. There is a suggested resolution in the packet.
Hey, any questions of staff? Would like to point out this item was heard by the TAC and approved, by MVIC and approved, and the RTC and approved. So with that, I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say, one moment, please. You have a question, ma'am? So moved is moved to approve. Yeah. I did read the motion into the record already, so moved I think is probably appropriate, okay? So all those in favor to say aye, please.
Aye.
I said aye, please. All those, no, never mind, sorry I said it. All those who are not in favor, please say nay. Any abstentions? Thank you very much. The item does pass and we move forward. Okay, moving on to our next item on our agenda. This would be item number, one moment here, item number 10. And this is a move to adopt a resolution approving the 2013 Cycle 2 amendments to 2025 Region Transportation Plan. I think I got these out of order here. Transportation Plan and fiscally constrained to 2035 Regional Transportation Plan and the associated 2013 Amendment Cycle 2 DRCOG CO and PM10 conformity determination and the 2013 Amendment Cycle 2 DRCOG Denver Southern Sub-Area 8-hour ozone conformity determination concurrently. This is attachment D. Jacob Reiger, please.
Thank you very much. My comments will be very similar to my colleague Brad's. I don't have a presentation, and we did discuss this in detail at the April board meeting with the public hearing in which 3 folks spoke in support of these amendments. But as Brad said, for the new folks in the room, we amend our regional transportation plan twice a year. This is our existing 2035 regional transportation plan. Several amendments in here initiated by CDOT in their RAMP program, by RTD for fast tracks, and local government amendments. These are the last amendments for our existing 2035 plan before we adopt 2040 RTP in a few months. It's a federal requirement that these amendments are fiscally constrained, meaning that the cost of the projects and revenues have been identified to pay for those projects. We have done that analysis. It's in the summary report that we went into detail last month and is linked in your packet this month. And it's a federal requirement that we meet air quality conformity requirements, which is why the chair's reading of the motion into the record is so long. But we did the air quality conformity analysis for these amendments in conjunction with the state. All of the proposed, the networks, I should say, not individual projects, but the networks containing these proposed projects amendments did pass air quality conformity requirements. So there is also a proposed resolution for this, and we're asking for your approval. Thank you.
Any questions of staff? Seeing none, I would seek action, please.
In deference, I'll move to adopt the resolution.
We have a second from Mr. O'Brien. Any discussion? Mr. Benson.
Jack, I just wanted to thank DRCOG. Our State Highway 2 widening project was part of the RAMP financing, way about 25 years overdue, but we got it this year through the efforts of DRCOG. So thank you, all of you.
Thank you.
We needed it.
Any other comments or discussion? With that, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Abstentions. It does pass. Moving on to the next item on our agenda, this is item number 11. This will be seeking a motion to support a proposal for MAP 21 reauthorization to allow MPOs flexibility to use certain funds for TOD investment. This is attachment E and is presented by Rich Morrow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I think you pretty much summarized it. No, actually, I think everyone here knows that reauthorization of MAP 21 is on the agenda for this coming year, and certainly board members will be having more discussions about that, and possibly even tonight yet. But in the meantime, we've been presented with this proposal that Enterprise Community Partners is circulating regarding financing of TODs. And I think, as Jack stated, the proposal would allow MPOs the flexibility to create TOD funds, potentially using CMAQ or STP funds if it is determined appropriate in that region. And so with that, the staff is recommending the board support the proposal, given it is another investment tool that could be available, and particularly given its voluntary nature.
Okay, any questions of staff? Yes, sir, Mr. Vigil.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got no problem with using some of the CMAQ funds for SDP funds for TODs at all whatsoever, because I think that's what CMAQ funds are used for, to reduce the ozone. And I've got some problems with the SDP metros. I think that's money that we use for reducing congestions and so forth, for building new roadways and that type of stuff. And I think that, I mean, we don't have, it's not like we have a whole bunch of money in there to begin with. And to pull some of that money out and start using it for TODs is, I think, it's not good use of that money, in my opinion. I think that that's supposed to be used for additional roadways and that type of stuff.
Ms. Millay.
And I guess I share Val's concerns, and I actually even have some stronger concerns. You know, the transportation budget in Colorado is extremely underfunded. We have, here from CDOT, we don't have enough to maintain the roads we have, let alone add on to our transportation system the roads and transit that we need. My community is waiting for an extension that we hope is eventually going to come. And as we continue to dilute our transportation dollars to other very worthy causes, and no one can dispute that these are not worthy causes, I have a real concern about, again, shrinking the pot of money that's available for transportation funding in our state.
Mayor Wachowski.
I strongly agree with Councilmember Vigil and Mayor Pro Tem Millay, and I think that is a city that has developed several TOD projects. The private sector is standing in line, and if the private sector isn't there, I think then we have to really question whether or not these funds, which are tax funds, will be the best spent in going in that direction, and I think they will not be best spent.
Any more comments or discussion? Mr. Nevitt.
Thank you. Am I understanding this right? Is it just to allow additional flexibility to use funds for TOD investment? It's not committing us to go in a particular direction. It's just adding room for us to make our own decisions. Why would we want to reject the opportunity to think more creatively? No,
Yes, ma'am.
No doubts.
Commissioner Jones.
Well, I guess I had comments along the same line. It sort of seems like it's kind of a regional or local control issue of potentially giving us another tool in the toolbox should there be funding available, and should that be something that we choose to wield. And I think at a minimum it's worth exploration as part of the MAP 21 reauthorization debate, to talk about how we can increase the financing tools that local governments have in order to move projects of any kind forward.
Councilman Millay, you were next.
And again, I'm just going to say, you know, if these were education dollars that we wanted to repurpose in a different way, would we think that that would make sense, or would we think education is underfunded in our state and to dilute those dollars doesn't make sense? And we do not have a robust transportation budget. All signs indicate that those funds will be dwindling as we move into the future. and it's a slippery slope that I don't think we can afford. There are a lot of good projects that need to move forward on a number of issues, but taking transportation dollars or education dollars and using them in a way that they were not intended for just does not make sense to me, and I really would urge this board to really strongly consider the consequences of what they might be doing.
Mayor Quinn.
I wish I was a mayor. Sorry.
Oh, I thought you were. You just been promoted.
Thank you. Bob will be surprised. Bob Murphy. I just actually wanted to agree with Chris Nevitt. I think the operative word here is flexibility. I think we should have the flexibility to use those dollars for TOD in the appropriate circumstances. Because the whole idea behind promoting TOD is to reduce congestion, to have more compact development patterns. So I just want to make that point. I think flexibility is really the key.
Commissioner Henry.
I have to disagree. I mean, our pot is so small for transportation right now, and we're decades behind in our bridges. Our bridges are falling apart. And I feel if we leave a crack open for money to disappear out of our transportation dollars, it's a slippery slope, and it's really dangerous in regards to doing that. And if we take money out of there, what projects are you willing to give up in your community? Because that's basically what's going to happen. If we take money out of our transportation, what projects in your community are you going to be willing to give up?
Any other comments? Okay, I need
I would actually make a motion to not support staff. You know, how do you make a negative motion? To not support the proposed amendment to MAP 21.
I second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Any other discussion? Mayor Cernanek, excuse me.
That's fine. Just wondering where this might go as far as catalyzing private investments and private dollars that might be utilized around a TOD center. And if we take the flexibility out, recognizing that RTD being public property isn't taxed itself, you know, might this be able to be in a position to support that? And that's a real question, because I understand the loan funds and trying to finance that, but you know, as we look at some things, this is sometimes how we can catalyze private investment dollars where they can hit some thresholds.
Commissioner Henry.
We could be able to use other ways of getting that funding through the EPA and through HUD in order to utilize for TOD. It doesn't have to come from our transportation money.
Okay. Commissioner Rozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mayor Cernanek, there is an opportunity out there that is not used all that often. In fact, is being used in the city of Lakewood. In fact, the developer came and asked us if they could use county private activity bonds. Each year in Colorado, $250 million of private activity bonds go unused for exactly this purpose. And I would have to agree with Commissioner Henry, Councilwoman Millay, and that is we're dividing up very precious transportation dollars, and there are mechanisms right now that exist for workforce housing and all that are going unused. They're dollars there. We can't use those for transportation dollars. They can be used for this type of housing and TOD development. So I'd strongly encourage them to go that direction than us to dilute those precious transportation dollars. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Councilman Nevitt.
Thank you. Maybe I'm beating a dead horse here, but I don't disagree in any respect with my esteemed colleagues who've said our transportation funding is shrinking and we need to be very mindful of that. But we understand that in order to get anything done, all of us understand this, we have had to be more creative with all of our financing tools. Everything that we do, we have to be more creative. None of this requires us to blow transportation money on housing. In fact, a proposal came to this body, when was it, 2 years ago, something like that, and this body decided no, that was not a worthwhile investment and elected not to. It's as simple as that. Nobody's making you do anything. Nobody's making you throw transportation money away on something dumb. That's a decision of this board, but it just seems short-sighted to me to not afford ourselves the running room to think creatively, to think flexibly, and to do what we're all doing in our own jurisdictions, which is be more creative with financing to get the things done that we know our citizens need. So none of this is requiring us to do anything. It's just giving us flexibility. We, together, elect whether to exploit that flexibility or forego it. That's as simple as that. Why would we get rid of that?
Councilman Millay.
So since you beat the horse, Chris, I guess I'm going to add. And part of that discussion that we did have 2 years ago regarding this issue was that even whether or not we were allowed under federal law to do it. And to me, this is kind of going back and taking another bite of that apple. This board did make a decision that we didn't think that using transportation dollars to support TOD housing made sense. And one of the reasons that factored into that decision was the fact that we weren't sure about the interpretation, whether it was even allowable. And I think this is a way to try and make something that we thought was a bad idea more palatable now. And even more, I'm glad you reminded me of why we didn't think it was a good idea 2 years ago, and why allowing this would actually potentially take one of the impediments from doing it away. So again, this isn't about housing to me, this is about transportation dollars.
Chrissy?
Yeah, I'd like to echo some of the comments that have already been made. I think it is important for us to think about how we can continue to be flexible in all that we have facing our communities, transportation, housing, and other issues. We do need to be creative with our solutions moving forward, and I think the more we can be comprehensive in that approach, and the relationship between land use and transportation is clearly there in terms of how we build our communities and how we move through our communities. So again, I think that flexibility is a good idea to have available. I think more tools are always better than less tools in how we deal with our challenges moving forward.
Ms. Horn?
So I just wanted to weigh in, as I guess I usually do, on the side of flexibility, and I agree that.
Oh, sorry.
Nice try. I agree that then what we need to do is act responsibly if and when those things come up, and I have full trust that this board will not allocate money to projects that we think are not deserving of the money.
Yes, sir. Mr. Blass.
I'd like to add my voice to the folks who have spoken in favor of flexibility here tonight. I think that's important. Tools in the toolbox, why should we deny ourselves a tool? I think as this body, when we look at particular proposals, we can decide whether it's an appropriate tool to use or not. But I think it makes sense. We've heard about creativity and the need for that in moving forward. So I think it's the right thing to do, to go ahead, and it's an exploration of this tool, I think.
Okay. Questions? Well, before we call for action on the vote, and I will restate the agenda, I would like to make a comment. And I want to make sure we understand here. I understand the term flexibility, but let me tell you what providing flexibility requires then. Because you're talking about federal transportation dollars, now we're going to have to create the process by which to provide a point rating system to go into the TIP process. We're going to have to put a category by which to apply that transportation dollars into that category in order to use this for housing projects. That rating and that scoring criteria could outweigh your local street project that you want repaved. It could outweigh your local capacity project you want to have done. So this is a slippery slope. When you say flexibility, we're not saying flexibility. We're saying let's put in a process to move money from transportation, because that is what we're doing. And I want to point out as a county a couple other points you need to know. Not only are there private activity bonds, and Douglas County has funded already over $58 million in private activity bonds to do affordable housing activities to date. And those bonds, anybody can get those when they become available and when somebody wants to exercise those bonds. In addition, there are CDBG grant money that HUD provides that you can use for affordable housing. We partner through the partnership of Douglas County in doing our Douglas County Housing Authority. We partnership with our local cities, and we create this, and we collect funds from the developers that we add to those funds, and we create our affordable housing options and our tools. Because now I can tell you what the next slope is going to be when we say flexibility. Okay, well, let's put something in our MetroVision plan that requires you to have flexibility, and you will do it. Or you don't get MetroVision points when you score your project. Folks, this is a slippery slope we're going to be heading down, and that's my opinion and why I will not be supporting this. So I will support the motion not to support this. So with that, Madam, would you please repeat your motion?
The motion is to not support the staff recommendation to modify map 21.
We have the motion. We've already had discussion with that. All those in favor of the motion to not support, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed to the motion, please say aye. Aye. To make sure we have, to ensure we have an appropriate count, I would like to get a hand count. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed to the motion? The ayes have it. Motion passes. And Chris, I apologize, but don't confuse my passion for fire. So I often say that is just a Chihuahua's bark. It never hurts when it bites. So there you go. So anyhow, okay. With that, we will move on at this point in time to the next item on our agenda. And I will tell you, item 12, we know we pulled, and we will move that to our July meeting. Now we move on to informational briefings, and the very first item on our agenda is actually a presentation on the future of transportation project funding. Whoa, what an interesting topic to have after that discussion. And presenting on our behalf this evening will be Herman Stockinger from the CDOT staff and Michael Sharotis from CDOT Transportation, who also works on the HPTE board. Please come forward and address the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a remote, or how do I? You're going to do it for me? Okay, great.
Your cue is next. So
Oh, yeah, it's on. It's on. Again, my name's Herman Stockinger. I'm the director of the Office of Policy and Government Relations for CDOT, and you all in your last conversation enables me to dispense the opening of, well, why are we having this conversation? We don't have a lot of money. We don't need to go even into that. So we're going to tackle right off with how, given the situation you all just described, how does CDOT and HPTE hope to even come close to addressing some of our needs on these major mobility corridors? It's about innovation. Somebody said, they didn't quite say innovation, but somebody kind of said it earlier. It's about innovation, and innovation by necessity, because our poll results show we're not going to get transportation. Thank you, I forgot the transportation funding anytime soon in Colorado. The federal funding doesn't look like it's going to enhance transportation. The best we can hope for is some stable funding. So it's about innovation. It's innovation in choice, innovation in funding, and innovation in partnerships. So we're going to talk a little bit about old versus new with a focus on what the new is. But this slide, of course, illustrates on the old side, we would build our roadways for cars and trucks, and then we add lanes when it gets congested. And we still are going to do some of that, but on these mobility corridors, we really need to do more than just the old way. We need to focus on increased choice. We need to focus on increasing mobility through operational improvements. We have a new Transportation Systems Management and Operations Division at CDOT, TSM&O. It's a big mouthful that is intended to focus not on what can we do for construction to enhance mobility, but what can we do operationally to improve mobility on these key corridors. And we've been working on that for a while, and we'll continue to do that. And we're going to use pricing on new express lanes to manage travel reliability and growth, and we need to promote other options like walking and biking. So express lanes, I'm going to focus in on that during this presentation and the benefits and reasons why we are looking at express lanes for these corridors. Express lanes will reduce delay on our most seriously congested corridors. General purpose lanes will do that too for a time, but what we can do with express lanes that we can't do with the general purpose lanes is we can use the toll pricing to manage the congestion, and if there's an important point on this slide, this is it, we can maintain reliable travel times now and in the future. You open a transportation project on day one, you're going to see those mobility benefits, no doubt. 5 years from now, are you still going to see that improved travel time? 10 years from now, are you going to see the improved travel time? You may not, but with the express lanes and the ability to pay onto the lane to get where you need to go if you need to get there quickly, we have reliable travel times into the future. And express lanes allow us to even further promote transit and carpooling on those corridors where that makes sense. So old funding, gas tax, new funding, gas tax, we still have that, but over the last 5 years our faster fees have really enabled us to enhance our transportation system. Moving in the future, we'll have express lanes. Not going to do a whole lot to really how we're going to finance our corridors. Tolling isn't going to be that full solution for us, but it can be a piece of that funding solution. Project delivery, keywords on the old side, design, bid, build. That's still how we're going to do most of our projects, design, bid, build. But on these key mobility corridors, gone are the days where we have a project team of a couple of people say, okay, we're going to go build a project. Do we have the financing? Yeah, we got the financing. Okay, let's go do that. It's now a multi-disciplined area where we need to use a lot of folks, and I'll talk a little bit more about it, I think, in the next slide, that it's going to take a lot of folks in different disciplines to build the project, but also for how we deliver it, we'll continue to use design, bid, build. We'll use design, build, and other innovative methods like CMGC, but really public-private partnerships, as we have now on US 36, is one of those new project delivery methods. What it can do for us is a P3 can help us finance, design, build, operate, and maintain the corridor. It may be all of those things. It may be only one or two of those things. Every P3 is probably going to offer us something a little bit differently in exchange for either toll revenue, like on US 36, where we're offering that toll revenue, or it could be in the form of annual performance payments. And Mike can talk a little bit more about that when he comes up. Back one. Thanks. Also, we can secure long-term performance guarantees for fixed prices. We'll talk about that in a minute. And of course, as you know, P3 isn't going to be a solution on every one of these corridors. So the partnerships, I talked about it a little bit just a minute ago, the multilateral partnerships. We still will engage our local stakeholders, still engage with the planning entities like DRCOG. None of these projects get built unless you decide to put it in your long-range plan, unless you decide to put it in your TIP. You still control that, but it's a whole lot more now. Our small project team I talked about earlier, they maybe aren't as familiar with TIFIA as our HPTE is. We need a whole team to develop those financing mechanisms, so partnerships become even more important than they have been in the past. So CDOT's real quick approach, kind of in 3 bullets. We have our RAMP program that's going to enable us to accelerate funding on a couple of these corridors. We have our new Office of Major Project Development that will tackle some of those larger, expensive corridors where we need a variety of partnerships, where we need the expertise in building, but also the expertise in financing. Our OMPD office will bring us that. And of course, we need to work with HPTE. They are our innovative financing arm. They're the ones that help determine the viability for P3s on these corridors. A couple of terms that you've heard before, but you're going to hear a lot more of, are traffic and revenue studies and value for money reports. I don't think I'd ever heard of a value for money report until late last year when we were talking about P3s on US 36. You're going to hear that. Those 2 terms are going to become part of our transportation lexicon as we move forward. So how do we decide? All the old ways that we used to decide how to build a project, we're still going to do, but it's much more complicated. It's much more complex than it used to be with these express lanes in particular. The toll revenue risk. On US 36, we turned that toll revenue risk over to the private sector. Maybe we won't be able to do that on every corridor. Maybe we don't want to do that on every corridor. But we also need to consider what the annual maintenance risks are, the reconstruction risks. Does the state want to take on that 10-year or 20-year reconstruction, or can we turn that over to the private sector? What's the value of doing that versus the cost? Those are things we didn't really talk about in previous years. We're going to talk a whole lot more about in the coming years with these corridors. Public engagement, you've probably heard there's a couple areas of public engagement we can do a little bit better, and we are. I don't think it's these two areas, though. The first one, when we're developing a project, determining what needs to happen on that corridor, the EIS process, I think we do a pretty good job of public engagement, bringing people in on that. We also do a pretty good job between our regions and our communications office, and then entities like 36 Commuting Solutions on the 36 corridor. When it comes time to build that project, we do a pretty good job. We can always do better, but we do a pretty good job of articulating what the traffic impacts are going to be for the daily commuter, what that looks like, and what their alternatives are. But I call that now mile marker 1 and 3. What we've never really delved into too much is mile markers 2 and 4. First one, or the second one, how do we finance and deliver a project? Is it P3? Is it an express lane? You know, are we talking with a multinational corporation? Is it a long-term financing deal? Those are things that we didn't have in the past. They weren't part of the EIS process. We need to incorporate, and you're going to see in the coming months, particularly starting this summer, a new process for how we articulate how we're going to finance and deliver our projects, really engage the public in that like we've never done before. And then on the back end, now we have North I-25 express lanes, we have E-470, but we have a lot of folks that have never used those. As we have more express lanes in the region, we need to do a better job providing the public, how do you utilize those? What's your travel time savings? What does it cost to get on? We need to do a better job than what we've done before on how people can utilize the choices that we're giving them. So we're going to talk about 4 corridors, C-470, I-70 West, North I-25, and I-70 East. All of these 4 corridors have the same basic items that I'm going to go through, so I'm going to go through these pretty quick. C-470, we have more needs than what we have funds.
Notice how fast they're moving.
That's going to be true for every corridor, but like every other corridor, C-470, we've been able, with partnerships, to cobble together some funds to build at least part of a project, and we're going to get 2 things out of these on each of these corridors. We're going to build express lanes to improve our travel time and travel time reliability, and we're going to do general purpose improvements as well. On the case of C-470, we'll do reconstruction of the general purpose lanes. And again, on each of these corridors, we have 3 key benefits. We get those mobility benefits for building these lanes. We have corresponding economic benefits both on the corridor and in the region by improving mobility in the region. And then we have choice, where really choice wasn't provided to the traveling public before. Again, I-70 West, we've built the eastbound twin tunnels, we're building the westbound. Next is peak period shoulder lanes. Those will be express lanes, tolled lanes, provide the same kind of travel time reliability, the same kind of economic benefits, and the same choice as these other corridors. North I-25, we have a couple projects there. Again, we have travel time issues. We're going to improve those travel time issues. We're going to provide choice on the corridor where choice wasn't provided before, and that's going to improve the economic situation in the region and on that corridor. I-70 East, same story. You can just maybe add a 0 or 2 to it. Next slide. I'm going to skip right down to the last couple of bullets. Go, yeah, thanks. This is a $1 billion plus project. The Colorado Bridge Enterprise, thanks to FASTER, can finance a substantial portion of that corridor, but there are limitations in what the Bridge Enterprise is able to fund. It has to be the elements of the poor bridge, and there's more than that for this corridor. So we're going to need, I keep knocking my pens off here, we're going to need help from you all first next year. If the economy doesn't take Senate Bill 228 away from us next year, before it ever flows, we need to make sure, we need to go hand in hand to the legislature, make sure that they don't take Senate Bill 228 away from us. We've had more positive feedback from the legislature this year than ever. There was a day when we thought, I don't think we're ever going to get that 228. But they're getting it like you're getting it. The transportation is a real need, but we're going to need your help to make sure that we get to keep 228 funding. And then, frankly, we're going to come to you for DRCOG federal funds. This is perhaps the most important corridor in the state and in this region from an economic standpoint, from a reliability and movement of people and goods standpoint. We're going to come to you and ask for help on this corridor. So this is a heads up that you can expect that that request is coming as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike Schroedis. He's our director of the High Performance Transportation Enterprise, and he's going to talk a little bit more about potential financing on these corridors.
Thank you, Herman. And just by way of introduction, my name is Mike Schroedis. I'm the director of a division of CDOT named the High Performance Transportation
Mike, we're having
Enterprise.
trouble hearing you. Can you lift the mic, or is it still on? There you go.
It's still on.
There you go. All right.
So standing in the back, I noted that the chairman characterized himself as a Chihuahua, which I will remember next time you yell at me. What I'd like to do tonight, next please, in a few minutes, just go through some of the high points and low points of the HPTE operation. HPTE has become such a mouthful for people that as a soft launch, I'm going to start calling it the Performance Enterprise, which ought to make it a little bit easier. You'll recall that the enterprise was created as part of the FASTER legislation. We have a number of powers that don't exist within CDOT, tolling powers, partnership agreement powers. What's really key, however, to our operation is that we are an enterprise exempt from TABOR restrictions. Next, please. So, what are our goals? Let me emphasize before getting into this that we do not decide what corridors to improve. That's a Transportation Commission function. We don't decide what monies are available to finance that corridor. That's a Transportation Commission function. When those decisions are made, however, Herman walks down the hall and says to me, let's take a look at this to see if there is value in pursuing a public-private partnership for this particular project. So what we're looking for, what our goals are, is to try to find ways to get funding into the project more quickly, to get the project scope expanded to the extent we can, and to get the project accelerated to the extent we can. We have started, I think, introducing the notion that we need to take a hard look at maintaining these assets over time. It's not just building the assets, it's maintaining the assets that's important. We're not going to be into flipping any state assets into private ownership. We don't have control over state assets. It's not part of anybody's agenda. And we will, as we move forward, we will keep well in mind the need to keep transparent in our operations to the maximum extent possible. Next. So a public-private partnership properly structured should be able to bring to the table accelerated construction schedules, a little bit more scope than we would be able to otherwise offer. We ought to be able to do it in a way that reduces the financial risk to the taxpayers over time. We ought to be able to do it in a way that gets the private sector invested in building a project that will be sustainable over time, because they will have the responsibility to reconstruct it if it goes bad. So long-term performance requirements are at the top of the list of any consideration of one of these financing transactions. How do we analyze the transaction? Next, please. we take a look, Herman comes down the hall, we've got a project on, let's take C470 for example. We know what the cost is going to be, we know what the potential revenues will be. We will take a look at what the risks and responsibilities are going to be for that corridor. We will take a look at whether we can or should transfer the toll revenue risk, who bears the risk if toll revenues fall below what's projected, whether we can transfer the long-term and annual and capital maintenance costs of that facility, who's going to take care of the operations, how is that going to be done, and whether it's a project that is susceptible to innovation of design, acceleration of construction, and getting a little bit more out of it than would otherwise be possible. Next, please. So our engagement process going forward with a project, that determination has been made to pursue a public-private partnership, will be, just as Herman was talking about milestones, at the time we're in a visioning stage for a project, we will take it out to a series of town halls, some physical town halls, some telephone town halls, at the stage, and get as much input as we can at that stage. We will then take it, prior to the time we go advertise for potential participants. We will go out again with our ideas on who we would like to partner with, and some preliminary ideas about the structure of that partnership. Before we finally get into the RFP itself, which is in a P3 transaction is quite a detailed document, we will go out a third time, ask for input. This is what we're proposing. We don't know if we can get it. What are your thoughts? And we will, I'm governed by a separate board. We do take those things into consideration. And then once we've got a deal in place, we will publish a comprehensive summary of the essential elements of that transaction, so people will know how many years it runs for, what the essential terms of that contract are. Next, please. Herman talked about the 4 corridors. In terms of what the HPT will be involved with, we take a look at the traffic and revenue that comes in for those. We think on the basis of what we've seen on a preliminary basis in C470, that maybe we can squeeze about $100 million in funding out of those revenues. It seems at first blush that probably we're going to be not pursuing a P3 transaction in this case, but that's still very much an open question, and we will take that into the public town hall process in early fall to see what people think. I-25 North, next, please. Missed it. So I-70 West, we are in a traffic and revenue phase up there, taking a look at what kind of revenue potential that corridor has. As most of you know, that has a good deal of political complication, I ought to say. We are moving forward, however, on an interim basis with some peak period shoulder lanes to help relieve congestion east of or west of the Twin Tunnels. We've got a project that is building out those shoulder lanes eastbound, and we're about to embark on a westbound project, and HPT is looking for a way to finance that. Next, please. I-25 North. Again, we've taken a look at the preliminary traffic and revenue studies. We've spent a lot of time talking to the P3 industry. We don't see how we can, at this point, initiate a public-private partnership process that makes any sense. There just isn't. It's not a matter of value, it's a matter of feasibility, and it's just not feasible at this point. We are going ahead, however, with the two projects that Herman mentioned. Next, please. I-70 East. Herman talked about that. We've taken a look at the revenue projections we do have for that segment. We've done a preliminary value for money, which considered 3 different delivery models. We know that the toll revenues are not going to be able to generate sufficient revenues to cover the capital costs. And what we are currently considering, and should have a final decision on fairly soon, is a public-private partnership structured to on the basis of annual performance payments to the private sector, the private partner, which are geared to the level of performance that is achieved. Next, please. So the P3 option in this case does, I think, build on what is otherwise possible under other delivery models. We've got the potential, I think, here to build in a good deal of certainty over the life of the project, that we'll be able to have a road segment and a viaduct that stands the test of time, and I think that's an important consideration for everybody. Our schedule, next please. On the I-70 East project, we will go out to public town halls in July of this year, month after next. The Transportation Commission will take final action in making a decision on whether it wants HPTE to pursue a public-private partnership in July of this year. We will publish a supplemental draft EIS in the fall of this year, and then starting next year, we'll, if things go as scheduled, we will start rolling out the procurement. That's what I've got. I guess the next slide is questions for either Herman or me.
Any questions? You did an absolutely fantastic job.
Thank you.
All righty.
And do just want to make sure that we make this offer. If you find some value in this presentation, if you think your commissioner or your council would be interested in hearing it, we will take it on the road for the next couple months. If you think your folks would like to hear it, just get in touch with anybody at CDOT and we'll make sure we get it arranged for you.
Can we get a copy of that so that we can get it to members who would like it?
Yes, definitely. In fact, it's sitting in my car in the parking garage, all the copies, so we'll make sure we get it to you. You have it electronically, and maybe you can distribute it.
Yeah, we do have an electronic copy. We'll just make sure if anybody wants it, we'll get it out to the membership. So what we can do is possibly, what do you think, post it on the website? We'll post it on the website, so go up and look at it, and we'll be able to pick it up. Okay. Councilman Nevitt, do you have a question?
Thank you. Yeah, I just had a question about the how the HPTE works. So it's an enterprise.
Sometimes well, sometimes not very well.
Depends on how often he walks down the hall. So it's an enterprise in the
It is
in
an
the
enterprise.
legal sense?
Yes, and it is a department of CDOT, but we have our own board of directors, which functions as a loan committee. I mean, they're people who understand finances and who can, participate in judging whether there is economic value and operational value in going in a particular direction.
Right. The function makes total sense. I'm just trying to figure out how it's financed. If it's just a department of CDOT, it's a department of CDOT. But
it's self-sustaining. I mean, we've got to live off of the money that we generate out of these projects. So, for example, in the US 36 project, the concessionaire pays us a fee every year to help administer some of that operation.
Okay, now I understand. Thank you.
Okay. All righty. Thank you, Herman. Thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate it. All right, moving on to our next item. Next item on our agenda is a presentation on the RTD annual report to DRCOG, which is an annual requirement. Susan Wood, I think it is your opportunity. Susan Wood, come on down.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for having me. Again, I'm Susan Wood. I'm a planning project manager with the Regional Transportation District. I'm here tonight speaking about the status report, the Fast Tracks status report that's in your packet. It is a report that's required by DRCOG resolution that was passed last September that changes essentially the reporting format for Fast Tracks. The status report is due to you annually by May 1st of each year. So hence the report that you have in your packet. It really is a snapshot of the status of the Fast Tracks program. Again, I know you have it in your packet, but what's included is a map, shows the Fast Tracks plan, shows each line, shows where it is in completion, and also has a date associated with it. It also includes a statement on each of the projects that lists the status of the project. Of course, some of them over this past year have been completed. Denver Union Station last week, the free Metro ride also opened last week. Last year, West Rail Line opened, and a number of projects are under construction or under contract, and that's what's detailed in that second sheet. And then finally, on the third sheet is a listing of cost through 2019. It includes cost expended through 2013 and then cost that are budgeted through 2019. And these are for projects that, again, are either completed, that are under construction, or under contract. 2019 was selected because that's the date that all of these projects that are listed, or portions of projects, will be completed. One of the most important things probably to note, again, in the resolution that was passed last September by the DRCOG board, there was a requirement to complete a baseline report that's very similar to the typical Senate Bill 208 report that you've seen in years past. It's a very comprehensive report on each of the Fast Tracks projects. It will include cost. It'll also include a schedule, and again, a very detailed description on the status of the projects. That's due to you by August the 1st, so within a couple of months. So again, what you have in your packet tonight is the brief status report that's required by May 1st of each year, but what will be coming to you within the next couple of months by August 1st is the baseline report that's certainly more comprehensive.
Okay. Any questions of Susan? Okay. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much.
Great job, by the way, on that report. It was succinct. I like that.
We like that.
Appreciate it. All right, moving on to item number 15. This is a report on the Sustainable Communities Initiative. This is attachment H, and this would be Craig Carlson, SCI Executive Committee.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you quickly about a little bit of my background. Former or past chair of Adams County Economic Development Corporation, past chair in Brighton of their Economic Development Corporation, past chair of Adams County Housing Authority, past chair of Metro North Chamber. I'm a has-been. So I'm actually...
You have passed away.
Not yet. Anyway, I'm delighted to be here. I've really enjoyed the last 2 years working with COG staff and other participants in the SCI process. We're here tonight only as kind of a teaser for your next board meeting, at which time we'll unveil a component that you're probably not aware of that's part of SCI, and that's our economic development component. You're probably all scratching your heads, and many of you are worrying, how is DRCOG and SCI going to interfere with our economic development program? The answer to that is we're not. Okay, we're here with this finding and this report next month to try to show you those tools and that data and that information that will be available to the member communities, the existing economic development corporations, to add to the toolbox. In Colorado, we really have, two major tools because we're underfunded, not just in transportation, but in economic development. And those two major tools that we have in Colorado are quality of life and our people. It's unsurpassed. That's how we're competing against all of our neighbors that spend a lot more. Our education, level. You look at any paper periodical in the morning, and we rank at the top of virtually every study that's being done in economic development. whether it be quality of life, productivity, health, transportation, bike connections. I'm proud to be a citizen of Colorado. We hope that all of your economic development departments or people within the municipalities, within the county, and the organizations that you partner with will take advantage of this resource. We're anxious to receive the report, and staff and I are here to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? No, sir. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
All righty. If that next, we'll move on to our committee reports. If you would just please remind you of the requested process for reporting out your committee reports, would be appreciated. The first one on our list is the State Transportation Advisory Committee, Elise Jones.
So I had the pleasure of attending my first STAC meeting with Jack and Doug, and the most important and controversial issue was sort of finalizing the funding for the formula programs. As you recall from Jack's report last meeting, on the regional priority programs, staff had suggested using a formula that was more focused on population and would have sent 39% of the funding to DRCOG, whereas the STAC preferred a formula more focused on DMT and lane miles, and that would have given us 35%. Despite the indications from the Transportation Commission initial discussion that favored the staff proposal, STAC decided to send yet another letter to the Transportation Commission saying, no, we really like our proposal. And DRCOG did not support that, neither did Pikes Peak or Pueblo. And the Transportation Commission went on to support the staff proposal that we supported as well. On faster safety funding, again, Jack went through a fairly thorough discussion on that last time. Basically, the staff, or the STAC, ratified its initial proposals around using the program option number 2 and the funding formula option number 4. We went along with that. It didn't provide the maximum number for DRCOG, but we thought it was the proper proposal given the fact that it was really based on the National Safety Council methodology. So, and that was adopted by the Transportation Commission as well. So that was the most important stuff. We also had a robust discussion about the I-70 viaduct. We heard about that tonight. STAC members from outside our region are concerned about the high price tag associated with that project. And so I think that will be an ongoing point of discussion that will come up in the next couple of STAC meetings. And then beyond that, the Transportation Alternatives Program, we got a briefing on that, and we are going to be getting calls for projects under that program for this summer. It's a competitive program. This is the new MAP 21 version of the Transportation Enhancement Program. So those were the highlights. I'll stop there.
Thank you very much. Mayor, Metro Mayor Caucus.
Thank you. The Metro Mayor's Caucus didn't meet in May. The Executive Committee did. We do have a meeting June 4th, and that meeting is going to include updates from our 2 major committees this year, which are the Water Committee and the Committee on the Homeless, and also Governor Hickenlooper is going to be joining us for that meeting. So those are the key components. I'm sure I'm missing something, but that's basically it.
Great, thank you. Metro Mayor County Commissioners, Metro Area County Commissioners.
Wow, I didn't know we changed our name there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I would say you got demoted, but I'd get slapped, so I won't.
Yeah, I would like to point out that our esteemed mayor, Mr. Mayor Rakowski, is channeling his inner Jim Taylor this evening. If you haven't noticed, he's wearing his khaki shorts, and you know, I love it. But our last Metro Area County Commissioners meeting, we had Sarah Reynolds from the Housing Colorado. She's the Executive Director of Housing Colorado. She gave us a presentation on affordable housing, where we're heading. and looked at the entire Denver metro area, and we had some discussions there that led right into our following item, which was construction defects on the policy updates. And that was led by Commissioner Joe Rapella from Douglas County. Many of you know that that construction defect bill, which is one of those items that is getting in the way of affordable for sale housing construction in the Denver metro area, was defeated. However, we'll continue, I believe, to take continuous bites at that apple. Also, we had updates from Commissioner Nancy Sharp for our Health and Human Services reports, and I also just want to take this time, if I may, Mr. Chairman, to thank the City and County of Denver. We give Nevitt and others a hard time all the time, but recently in Jefferson County we had issues where we had noise complaints for Red Rocks for electronic dance music, and they, when City and County of Denver was contacted, they were Johnny on the spot. They were very responsive, and in fact, last Friday night there was a concert up there, and there were some new policies implemented, and that noise was reduced. But that's regional collaboration right there, of working together and not pointing fingers, and they were there working with us, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
I'd like to add something to that, if I mind. It's
not about noise, is it?
Yeah, it is. It's called DIA, but you know, just thought I'd mention that. If you could take care of that noise for us, in Adams County, would appreciate it.
Well, I was going to say, I would like to see some noise reduction in DRCOG, but oh, Chris. Anyhow. By the way, thank you for your collaboration with Daniels Park all the time. Denver's always a great partner there, so we appreciate it. Those people don't know, Daniels Park, one of our premier treasures of Douglas County, is actually owned by the city of Denver. It's an interesting situation. Moving on to the Advisory Committee on Aging. Jayla?
So Craig Carlson said, you know, we're all the top, we're the top state for this and this and this. We're also one of the top states for people who retire, right? So a lot of people come here to retire. It's a good thing that we got extra dollars. As you might know, we got $4 million extra dollars for our aging services so that people can age in their community and don't have to go to nursing homes or assisted livings prematurely. Thank you, Rich Morrow, and our lobbyists and our community partners. So the way that works when we get new dollars, the way we allocate those dollars is the funding. We have a funding subcommittee of the Aging Advisory Committee, and they make decisions on how those new dollars are going to be allocated. They did that. They made recommendations to the Aging Advisory Committee, who accepted those recommendations and then passed them on to the Administrative Committee, who voted on those tonight and approved those, and so that money will be going out, which is very exciting. We are going to be able to provide more services, more really needed services to older adults. We had a presentation from one of our newest programs. It's a chore program. It's run by the Seniors Resource Center in Jefferson County. It serves the entire area except for the entire metropolitan area except for Arapahoe County, which has their own chore service program. This is a unique service. It provides comprehensive cleaning services for people who are in danger of eviction, institutionalization, fines for code violations, or adult protection referrals. So these are those hoarders. How many of you have those folks in your community? Yeah, and it can be very challenging. And those folks sometimes, just because they have a bunch of stuff, have to go somewhere much more expensive or are evicted, in danger of being homeless because of of their hoarding behavior or their not cleaning up. This program has been very successful and already has it's only been in operation for 8 months and it already has a waiting list. So I just want you to know that that is a resource for you all should you encounter something. We got a letter from the Arvada Housing Authority complimenting us on that program and saying how valuable it was to their community and to please continue to fund it. So that's really positive. The other thing is that, remember last month I talked to you about how aging has to develop business acumen. We have to do business differently if we're going to be relevant and successful in the next 5 years. The advisory committee has decided to have a subcommittee, a business acumen subcommittee, which we will have the first meeting in June. So Mayor O'Brien, who is wonderful and almost made me cry after our last meeting, said he'd be happy to help us in that committee. Because he works at the DU Business School. Isn't that cool? So how exciting is that? That's my report.
By the way, Jayla,
yes.
Mayor Rakowski wanted to know how to access some of the funds to correct his hoarding problem. I will let you know very quickly. Chris Nevitt volunteered some medical marijuana. May not correct it, but he won't think about it anymore. So.
It won't make it so bad, right? Thanks.
All righty. Yeah, now that's regional cooperation. That's right. All right, moving on to the RAC, Regional Air Quality. Jackie Thomas, please. Yeah, Jackie. The purpose is it's a joint presentation, so I put it together. Joyce Thomas, Jackie Millay.
Thank you. Mine's very short and sweet. Our next meeting is June 6th. We did not have a May meeting.
Well, there we go. Thank you very much. All right, moving on now to the E470 Authority. Mr. Rakowski.
Due to city business which conflicted, which I could not change, the wonderful alternate Jackie Millay has the report, to be supplemented by my favorite councilman from Commerce City.
Before Jayla leaves, I also want the board to know that I want to make sure I say it right, the Area Agency on Aging just had an audit of our services by the State Unit on Aging, and I think it's important to note that there are absolutely no compliance issues, and as a result of the great audit, they will just have to have a desk audit next year. So I think great job to Jayla and her staff for that, and I think you need to make sure you let us know those great things that you're doing. So thank you.
Yay!
As for E470, now talk about a healthy financial organization. For goodness sakes, they went through their financials, and boy, is that a well-run machine right there. I think we could all learn some lessons. Jayla, maybe they can help with the agency, the area agency business services, because they're doing things right. They have been asked to support some water tanks for infrastructure for the WISE project. The board is considering that, and there was also a presentation on managed lane tolling, which was actually fascinating, talking about, to me it was fascinating, the cost of tolling. I know I am an engineer, but the cost of tolling and actually the cost of the tolling transactions and the admin and overhead that's associated with those, and it is amazing what the behind-the-scenes work that is done for the tolling, and they really do a phenomenal job, but it does come at a cost. And I'll turn it to you if there's anything else you want to add.
That was a pretty good summary. You know, E470 did have its biggest day in history about a week ago. I can't tell you how many cars, but it's just, like you said, it's a very well-run organization, and it just keeps... we're going to have $160 million next year gross. But thank you. That's it.
You know, I remember when the first stretch of E470 was from Parker, where I live, to I-25, and you drive in, you would flip nickels. Now I got to give them a credit card. I got to tell you. It's worth it, though, I'm going to tell you. It's worth it. All righty. Moving on to our next item, which is a report on fast tracks, which is Bill Van Meter, but we already have... Bill's not here, but I think we had an RTD report anyway, so I think we're okay. All right, now we have 3 informational items. I read at your leisure. One of those is a legislative wrap-up. The other one is a draft summary of the 2016 Administrative Committee meeting. And the third one is a relevant clippings and other communications of interest. So with that, I'm going to remind you the next meeting is June 25th. So don't forget that. Mark your calendars. Are there any other matters by the membership? Seeing none, ladies and gentlemen, it is 8:25. I love it. We are adjourned.